Japan has never won the World Cup. But more than that, Japan has never even reached the semi-finals. 8 consecutive tournaments, 8 times they've shown up, played brilliant football, surprised the world, and then been eliminated before the Final Four. Always close, never there. And yet, every 4 years, the entire country watches. Together. There's a word in Japanese, Shouganai. It roughly translates to "it cannot be helped." The quiet acceptance of things beyond your control. The grace of acknowledging that some outcomes are not yours to determine. Japan has applied this philosophy to the World Cup for 30 years. We try, we improve, we lose. Shouganai, we come back next time. But here's what's changing. The generation playing for Japan now didn't grow up watching the World Cup as something that happened to other countries. They grew up watching Japan compete. They watched their father's generation take Spain and Germany to pieces in Qatar in 2022, top the group, and genuinely believe, that maybe this time was different. Then came Croatia. Penalties, the plane home, Shouganai. Except this generation doesn't say it the same way anymore. There's something underneath it now. Something that sounds less like acceptance and more like a question. What if it doesn't have to be this way? To understand why a Japan World Cup victory would mean something different from any other nations, you have to understand what football represents in Japan. Japan is a country that took a sport invented elsewhere, studied it with complete dedication, built academies modeled on the best in Europe, sent its players to the Bundesliga and Serie A and the Premier League, and systematically became very, very good. Not through natural talent handed down through generations of playing barefoot in the streets, through work, through discipline, through the particular Japanese belief that any skill, approached with enough patience and rigor, can be mastered. They have been proving this theory correct for 30 years. Each World Cup, they go a little further. Each tournament, the gap closes. The players get stronger, faster, more technical. The coaches get smarter, the system gets better. Japan is not a football nation waiting to be discovered. Japan is a football nation being built, in real time, in public. And they're almost there. What would it feel like, not for the players, but for the country, if Japan actually won? Picture a Sunday morning in Tokyo. It's past midnight when the final whistle blows. Japan plays their World Cup games in the small hours because of the time difference with North America. But nobody in Japan is asleep. The streets outside Shibuya Crossing are full. Not chaotic. Japan doesn't do football chaos the way other countries do. But full. Quiet at first, and then not quiet. The thing about Japan winning a World Cup is that it wouldn't feel like luck. It wouldn't feel like one golden generation that happened to peak at the right time. It would feel like the conclusion of an argument that Japan has been making for 3 decades. A quiet, patient, relentless argument that said, we belong here. We have always belonged here. We were just waiting for the moment to prove it. That argument gets answered. And somewhere in the country, an old man who watched Japan play their first World Cup in 1998, who watched them lose their first 3 games and go home without a point, sits in front of a television at 2 a.m. and understands that he just watched the end of a story that started before his grandchildren were born. The same story. The same team, the same blue shirts, just finally, a different ending. What changes? Football in Asia changes. Permanently. Japan winning a World Cup doesn't just belong to Japan. It belongs to every nation in Asia that has been told implicitly or explicitly that this trophy was made for somewhere else. South Korea, Australia, Iran, Saudi Arabia. Every nation that has watched Europe and South America trade the trophy back and forth for 96 years would feel something shift. The idea that football has a natural order, that certain nations win and certain nations compete, breaks. And once that idea breaks, it doesn't come back together the same way. Japan would also change. A country already admired for its discipline and precision and commitment to craft would add something new to its self-image. Not just the nation that makes things beautifully, the nation that plays football better than anyone on earth. Shouganai gets retired. The quiet acceptance of things beyond your control gets replaced by something else. The knowledge that nothing is beyond your control if you are patient enough, disciplined enough, and willing to work for long enough. Japan has been proving that for 30 years. The World Cup would just be the proof the rest of the world finally couldn't ignore. Here's the question that keeps me up at night. Japan has already beaten Germany, already beaten Spain, already shown the world what they're capable of. So at what point does nearly become actually? Do you think Japan can win the World Cup? And what would it mean for football in Asia if they did? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe to Beyond What If. One question changes everything.